now we come to the romance portion of our code. What would codes be without talking about millennial relationships? They're already looking to form or looking for more committed relationships, but they're just at the start. So we call this code Reformat, Reboot, Delete. The reason why we use the terms of the internet is because of the huge influence of technology on the nature of the romantic relationships. Unlike before, that maybe you would start with a blind date, now you search each other on Facebook, maybe. In India, they search each other on WhatsApp. And I think in China, they probably are on WeChat. In fact, the start of the courtship is actually an exchange of photos and maybe an exchange of likes. Later on in the relationship, the physical closeness is compensated for by being able to access each other on social apps. Relationships seem to flourish even if one partner is in a different country. In fact, it becomes more intense because more time is spent on the social apps. Now, that's the nurturing part of the relationship.
I think also what makes a millennial in Asia distinct is the fact that you don't marry for love, but you learn to love the one you marry. So this is where courtship rules are very traditional. In Jakarta, you have to be in a relationship on Facebook. You have to have that status because that allows you to go out, be seen in public.
But what happens when the relationship is severed, no? Or they decide, okay, it's not working out. And like before, where you probably saw each other and said, okay, face to face, let's call it quits. Now, the intention to quit is sent by a text. So it starts out with a text and it may or may not result in a physical meeting to say, okay, this is why we quit. The other thing, which is a very hurtful part of the relationship, aside from the quitting, is the reformatting of, for example, the whole Facebook account, where any memory of that relationship can be completely erased.
In Asia, while obedient or the millennial acknowledges this cultural tradition, they still find ways around it. I remember we have this millennial, Troy, in Beijing. To be able to land a Beijing partner is like the ultimate, right? So he's got everything. He's got a good job, he has his own house, but he doesn't have a partner yet. And you know, in his generation, there's only one child. So the parents are hungry for grandchildren, hungry, and where you are obliged to continue the family name. So Troy had no choice but to let his mother into the arrangement of a potential spouse. At the same time, he had a Mercedes. He'd drive around the city and picking up girls as potential girlfriends by joining Uber or their version of Didi, right? So, and the girls look for Didi Lux cars so that they can find potential mates who are like rich. So instead, the girls look for rich boyfriends and the guys look for pretty girls. So you know, in the end, it works out. You know, on Facebook, you have your photos and you get notified that somebody likes your picture. So the flirting starts in the liking of the picture. Essie and Rob exchange likes. That's when they decided to set up, like, let's meet for coffee. And then they found out that Rob was going to Cambodia, or was it India, for a long period. And because he liked Essie, he kept on continuously updating her. So they would FaceTime, would send Snapchat videos, to the point that they became a couple while he was away, right? Like he said, can we be exclusive? While they were like thousands of miles away from each other, right? And when he get back from the trip, guess who meets him in the airport? Essie. And that's when they have their first physical kiss. So sometimes the physical comes like much
Later.
Yeah.
And I think the most outstanding thing about this, when we looked at romantic relationships, was there is the role that digital plays in terms of being able to initiate, nurture, and then help them move on to another relationship. So like we were mentioning in the earlier codes, there is no such thing as virtual real anymore for the millennial. It's just one whole, connected stream of life, and within that stream of life, there is no real without a virtual component. What we notice now is it's now the online factor that is playing a large factor in initiating and nurturing and even helping them move on to other relationships.